In this video, I am going to present my closing statements about our language analysis class together, a few organizational details, as well as then in the second video, a final thought about the field of linguistics and what we've learned so far in the class. With the skills that we've laid down in language analysis on this basis, we're going to be building on that next semester in the second language acquisition class, or depending on whether you're a TFL student or a TESOL student, in structure of English or in pedagogical grammar. So one of the applications of these language analysis skills that we've learned, the ability to analyze pronunciation, lexicon, grammar, and discourse, is thinking about the orders of instruction. What order do we want to teach different language structures or language patterns to our learners in? At the beginning level or even at the lower intermediate levels, we often sort of let the textbook steer the lead and we just sort of follow along with the order that the textbook series presents these in. But that's not always actually based on the true order of language acquisition or in an order which actually makes any sense. Often these are just sort of inherited traditions that haven't really been questioned. So thinking about and being able to analyze and really think about the structure of the formulas, of the patterns that we're trying to teach our learners makes a big difference in being able to figure out orders of instruction. This is something we're going to dig into much more in second language acquisition and then eventually in your grammar teaching classes next semester as well. It also matters for choosing language objectives at the lesson level, the unit level, or the curricular level. When we're thinking about a text or a domain of life, we'll have to choose either isolated forms or patterns, formulas to teach and to make the objectives that we're going to assess, that we're going to really spend time drawing our learners' attentions to. So the forms of language, how the structures are generated, the sounds or the letters that we see in what order, the meanings, the ideas that are being conveyed by those forms, and then the usages, how this form meaning pair gets used in different settings, by whom, to whom, when, where, why. So all of this knowledge is foundational for pulling language objectives out of a text or out of a situation in life and figuring out how to then build our lesson unit or curriculum around those objectives. Thinking about the interlanguage. So the interlanguage is a new term that we'll dig into a lot in second language acquisition, but it refers to the learner's best working model of how their target language works. If you're an Arabic learner, you have a hypothesis at any given point in time. I think this is how Arabic works. But there might be a gap between your hypothesis and how the expert speakers in the community that you want to join would agree that Arabic works. And that difference is the interlanguage. So your interlanguage is sort of an evolving model, your best working model of the language. So thinking about what is a learner's interlanguage, what's going on in their brain, how do I respond to it? What gaps are there in their working model, and what evidence do I need to present to the learner in order to help them bridge that gap between their working model and the target? Materials design, thinking what details need presenting, what evidence we give for those details or for the structures that we're choosing. How much overt representation, so how much do we ask the learners to talk about the language, to be able to describe, to diagram, to chart the ways the language works? How much overt explanation? How much do we talk to the learners or explain how it's working versus let them tell us how they think the language is working? And then assessment. There's structural issues a lot of times which confound the structures that we're trying to assess. If we want to do past tense, this is going to depend on pronunciation, depend on discourse. It's not just a simple grammar issue. So the different sub-skills are all interrelated, and sometimes some sub-skills, some grammatical structures, grammatical patterns need to be acquired first before a later one. And so it makes no sense, or it's kind of counterproductive to assess things out of order. So our ability to think critically, to carefully analyze pronunciation patterns, vocabulary, grammar, and discourse is all going to lay the foundation for these practical applications in our courses next semester. And I wanted to remind you that on our course Canvas site, which you'll still have access to as long as you're a Miss student, that right at the top I had a few different things, this key takeaways by unit. I tried to digest this if you learned nothing else, the key terms, the key theoretical concepts, and then the key instructional applications for each of our 4 units: pronunciation, lexicon, grammar, and discourse. And then you can see here with the cohort that went before you, the cohort that just graduated, what they said about teaching pronunciation, lexicon, morphology, grammar, and discourse, their sort of collective wisdom about the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to teach these things well, both as a novice teacher and as an expert teacher, a trainer of teachers. Another last thing is to check the gradebook for missing assignments. So I have to submit my grades on January 4th. So I would really encourage you to check the Canvas website to just see if there's any grades that are missing, and email me as soon as you can to make a plan for how you'll submit those missing grades. You'll also see early this week then my comments on your posters, and I'll have uploaded as well the grades for your grammar comparison tasks so that you'll get a sense of how you're doing. I'm also going to give you each individualized feedback that synthesizes your 7 practice teachings, where I've seen you grow over the semester, responding to your kind of recurring things that you notice about your teaching, what went well, things that you'll notice, that, and give you each an individualized feedback that synthesizes your journey in those micro teachings. I hope that you've enjoyed the class. I hope that you enjoyed the chances to practice teaching different aspects of language knowledge and digging in to the nitty-gritty. In the second video, I'm just going to give kind of a summary of the grand picture of linguistics, and sort of recapitulate all of the different steps in the process of language processing and language production that you now can begin to put together to pull together all of the different discrete aspects of our language analysis knowledge.